Dr. Farouk El-Baz, the founding director of the Center for Remote Sensing, will briefly describe what he's done, and he will take questions. After the news conference is concluded, he and his staff will be available to show you the laboratory that was used, the computers and the images that have been used to analyze the count of the Million Man March. Also, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Michael Gillen. He's here wearing two hats. He's a scientist and a science reporter and has played a major role in bringing the story forward so that a scientific analysis could be conducted. Dr. El-Baz.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Boston University. We're delighted to have you here. I want to start by saying, by explaining to you how we got involved in this whole story. My friend and colleague, Dr. Michael Gillen, who is a professor of physics at Harvard University, had actually been here at the very initiation of the Center for Remote Sensing in 1986, and he and I had been colleagues and friends ever since. So when he learned about the fact that there are photographs available from the Park Service that have not been analyzed, and he knowing that there is a controversy regarding the numbers of people that took part in the Million Man March in Washington on the 16th of October, he just simply asked me the question whether our methodologies and techniques using computers can improve on the counting procedure. And unfortunately, I said yes, because we have now turned a scientific investigation to see what could be done with photographs into a media event. So now, since that time, we have rather turned our lives upside down, and to be able to make the estimations of the crowd very fast. And the first time we did that, we did it on the 10 photographs that were provided to us from ABC. The photographs were taken by the National Park Service at the same time that they took video images of the crowd in Washington. And we came up with a number that was a great deal more than the number of that estimated by the National Park Service. The National Park Service had estimated that 400,000 people participated in the march, and we estimated that there were 870,000 people that could be calculated or estimated from the photographs. That in itself generated a controversy, and the National Park Service people began a discussion with us and offered to discuss the methodology that they have used to come up with this number, and we certainly welcome this, and we offered to discuss with them the methodologies that we use to come up with our numbers. And because of the interest of the march organizers of the Nation of Islam, the representatives from the Nation of Islam were invited to the meeting so that they will hear the scientific arguments on both sides and understand exactly how the National Park Service did the calculation and how did we do it and why the different numbers. That occurred last Tuesday, where the officials representing the National Park Service and National Park Police, actually the major that calculated the numbers and the individual that actually took the photographs, all of them were here. And with our groups, with the representative of the Nation of Islam and the Million Man March Inc., and our representatives from the Center for Remote Sensing, professors from the Geography Department, professors at the Center, research associates, and my graduate students all participated in that briefing. What transpired is the fact that we learned from the Park Service that they did all of their calculations based on photographic enlargements made from a videotape. They did not use the 35 millimeter camera photographs that we used ourselves. The reason for this is that the fact that they had to do an estimation very fast. So they took their videotape that they had taken during the day and took segments from it, enlarged these segments to make prints, and they made the estimation based on these. So immediately you would think that there are very great inherent problems in doing so. And we had the option of taking the 35 millimeter films, digitizing them, and then they were actually fed to our own computers here to do our calculations, so there is a difference between the two. Now, the very first thing that we had to establish is the area that we are dealing with. How big is this area and what it is and how big this area is. For this, we went to the internet to retrieve the copy of the photo map of the mall area that was made by the United States Geological Survey. There was a program called NHAP program, which is the National High Altitude Program, whereby the United States Geological Survey was assigned the job of making orthophoto maps of the United States and particularly of the cities. And this is what was retrieved from the internet, where you see here a vertical view of the mall, starting from the Capitol building. There is the reflecting pool, the Smithsonian Institution buildings, and the Washington Monument would be right here. So we established the area that we're dealing with from the steps of the Capitol all the way to the mall. And we had to figure out how large is that area and what does it represent. So again, we make the drawings of what this is. This is the Capitol, in front of the Capitol, the reflecting pool. And the mall is defined by 3rd Street and 14th Street, and between the two streets that right next to the Smithsonian buildings, in a segment that looks like this with a little curvature in here due to the fact that the Smithsonian Castle juts into the mall a little bit. Now this area here turned out to be size-wise 265,192 square meters. So figure the number of meters of this area, so that we'll deal with it. And we calculated it by meters because the original of this photo map was done with 1 meter pixels, meaning with components of a picture, each one is 1 meter square. So we stuck to the measurements with to 1 meter. Now we have defined the area that we have, and now dealing with this area in the photographs that we have in the images. I wanted to show you a sample of the kind of enlargement that the National Park Service did, and they actually made the calculation, the estimation from this size print, superposing a grid on this oblique view. All of the pictures were taken at an angle, and that's actually very significant. The reason for this is the fact that the National Park Service cannot fly overhead the crowd, actually out of fear of the fact that if the helicopter fell out of the sky, it would fall over people. So they could never actually fly over the crowd. So they would, knowing that the crowd is here, they would fly way north of the Smithsonian buildings from this side and way south of it. So all of the views are taken at a great angle. And the photograph taken from a great angle like this is going to be distorted. So that is a significant aspect of all the photographs that were taken. Now, when you have a photograph that's taken at an angle like this, in addition to the distortion, buildings hide people, trees hide people, tall people hide short people, and so on, because you're looking at a great angle. And the 35 millimeter print negatives that we had, we made some prints of them, and you could actually see that if you calculate the number of people in this zone right here, you would be off by a great margin, because underneath the trees there are more people per unit area under the trees than people in the open area. Why? Because it was a sunny day in Washington. If people are going to be there for a very long period of time, they will naturally seek shade. So they would seek the shade of the trees, and under the trees there will be very high concentration of individuals. So this is kind of an illustration of, if you're looking at a photograph taken obliquely like this, and if you make a print from a videotape and you work from it, you're not really working from the best product that you have, because if you have 35mm photographs, you can at least see the density a little more. So this is one important thing. Now, what did transpire here is that during that meeting with the National Park Service, they gave us all of the negatives of all of the film they exposed. They left it with us here. These were pictures like that. The 35mm, you all are familiar with the 35mm film like that, where this strip here would have 4 frames, and the 5 films that we had, each one of them had 36 frames like that. My research colleagues here selected 14 pictures that actually cover the total area of the mall and the surrounding area, so that we could concentrate our measurements on these 14 images. These negatives are the best possible product of the best possible photography that is available in the country of this event. So the National Park Service has certainly been very cooperative in giving us the originals of these things so that we can do the recalculation.